Hello, it's Simon Zutshi here. And in this video, I'm going to share with you how you can make money from property in 2023. In fact, how you can get rich during a recession of 2023. Now, how do I know this? Well, look, my name's Simon. I've been investing in property since 1995. I was able to replace my income as a full-time manager at Cadbury's in 2001. In 2003, I set up the Property Investors Network. And since then, so for 2 decades, I've been teaching people like you how to become very successful investors. And that's really important because many of the people you might listen to, podcasts, watch YouTube videos, they might have been investing for a lot less than 10 years and certainly teaching people for less than 5 years. And the problem with that is that many of these people, they have no personal investing experience of what happens during a property market crash. And there's no doubt now that we are seeing prices in the UK start to come down. Now, the last property market crash was back in 2008. It was very different circumstances. It was due to the global financial crisis, which started in America, came over to the UK and spread around the world, where we're responsible for lending and borrowing. And ultimately, people were borrowing money for property that they could really afford to pay back. A lot of this debt was sold onto banks. And some of the banks like Lehman Brothers fell, Northern Rock collapsed. The government had to step in to prop up many of the UK banks to stop the whole economy crashing. And as a result, banks weren't lending. It was very difficult to get finance in 2008. So property prices came down as much as 20 to 30% in some areas. And lots of people lost money during that time. And you can lose money in property if you don't know what you're doing. However, there were also lots of people who knew what they were doing, recognized the buying opportunity of that particular decade was in 2008 and purchased lots of property. How do I know? Because I was one of those people. We were guiding lots of our students who were doing our mastermind program at the time on how to successfully buy in a falling market. Now, there were lots of people who will tell you about property market crashes, but the reality is most of the people who are doing YouTube videos and putting out podcasts, they now have no personal experience about investing during that time because they've only been investing maybe for the last 10 years and maybe training other people for less than 5 years. So one of the benefits about this particular video is I've personally been doing this during a property market crash. I know exactly what you need to do to be a successful investor in that time. And I am really excited. You know, the property market has been booming for the last 12 years, particularly the last 2 or 3 years during COVID, but prices are really high. Interest rates have shot up thanks to Liz Truss's government and the budget that was made that was received very, very badly. Obviously, Liz Truss is no longer here, that chancellor is no longer here, but the effects of that are still here in our very high interest rates. Now, the belief is that interest rates will probably come down in 2023. I think we might see a little bit more of an increase, maybe another 0.5%. That's just a guess. And speaking to lots of the brokers I work with, that's a feeling amongst many people. Many mortgage companies have already factored into their costs an extra 0.5% increase. But we believe by the end of the year, interest rates are going to start to come down, or maybe even before. Why? Because the swap rates, which are the bank rates that they can borrow at, are starting to come down. So rates are going to come down. But what it means right now, there's a real problem. So we have lots of people who are trying to buy houses, they're trying to buy buy-to-let properties, they're trying to buy their own homes, and they're struggling to get the mortgages because the interest rates have gone up, but the affordability checks are even higher than that. So what that means is a lot of lenders are not that keen to lend, they're making it difficult, and people who've made offers on property, they can't get finance, those offers are falling through. Normally, in a normal market in the UK, 1 in 3 sales fall through. Now, I think it's looking more like 1 in 2 sales are falling through. So lots of properties coming back onto the market for sale. Now, there are people who still want to buy, but new buyers are having exactly the same problem about getting finance. And that problem is going to be around for a little time. Add that to the fact that more and more landlords are looking to sell. Now, in any industry, you always have people coming into the industry and you have people exiting the industry. That happens all the time. Most landlords are very, very happy with their properties. But at the 50 PIN meetings we have around the country, and I've got a little bit of an advantage. I've got my ear to the ground all around the UK, and I know what's happening. We're seeing more and more landlords looking to sell. Why is that? That's because interest rates have gone up. Now, many landlords are on fixed mortgages. Interest rates going up is not a problem for them. But a lot of people who are on variable mortgage, and I have a few properties on variable, I can tell you the mortgages have shot up dramatically. What that means is some properties that were making money for the last 10 or 12 years because of the low interest rates, suddenly because of these higher rates, they're not making any money. They're just about covering their face, washing their face of it. So covering all the costs. They're not making any cash flow. What that means is that because the new way that we are taxed as property investors that came in April 2017, phased over 4 years, it was called Section 24, you can have a property that might be making you no cash flow, but on paper, it's making a profit. So you have to pay some money to the tax man. So this is the extra catalyst that's caused a lot of investors to say, you know what, I'm going to sell lots of my properties. So you've got all these properties coming on from investors who want to sell. This is why there's going to be an oversupply in the short term, thus causing prices to come down. Now, we've got to remember the fundamental trend in the UK is that we don't have enough accommodation. The UK government said we need 300,000 homes every year. We're only building 200,000, so there's a shortage. That's why generally property prices and rents also go up over time. But for the next year, maybe 2 years, we're going to see prices come down. So now is a great time to buy. Now, a lot of people say, well, hang on, if prices are coming down, maybe we should sit back for a couple of years and wait until they hit the bottom. Now, in theory, that's a great idea. But the reality is nobody knows when that's going to be. I've been investing 20 years. I have no idea when that's going to be. You don't know. And if you're trying to guess the market, by the time you realize it's hit the bottom and everyone knows it's hit the bottom, the press, the general public, and all the sellers know it's hit the bottom, you'll find that sellers are a lot less likely to give you a discount because they believe somebody's going to come along and pay more for the property because the market started to go up, which is what happens when it reaches the bottom. Eventually it goes up again, especially with a shortage of accommodation, which we have in the UK. So instead of trying to guess when that is, as long as you're buying a good deal now and it meets your criteria and it meets the golden rules I talk about in Property Magic, then just buy the property. Now, if you can't get mortgages, we can use tools such as purchase and lease options, which you really should know about. I've got some videos about that on this channel. I've got in my book, I also talk about those as well. So you should definitely learn about purchase lease options. A great strategy. We used them a lot in 2008 when it was difficult to get finance. Also vendor finance, where the vendor doesn't have a mortgage, they give you a private mortgage. That also is going to work very, very well this year in 2023. So it's important for you to understand there are ways of controlling property. Many people are scared, not knowing what to do. That means there are less buyers in the market, which reinforces this opportunity for us right now. So if you want to make money in 2023 from property, you need to get involved in property. You need to learn what to do. You should check out the Property Magic podcast, a huge amount of information there for free. I've got my YouTube channel, check that out. And I've been investing successfully in 2008, in the last crash. I know exactly what you need to do. We need to be looking for motivated sellers. Now, most sellers are not motivated. Only about 5% of sellers in a normal market are really motivated, which means they're flexible on the price or the terms. But in a market like the one we have now, more and more people are going to be motivated. And imagine you're a landlord and you've got property, you've had for 20 years, you've had incredible growth, particularly over the last 12 years. And you remember the crash back in 2008. And you know prices came down 20, 30%. You might be really happy to sell your property at 10 or 15% off the current market value because you want to get rid of it quickly. And you still know you're still going to make a lot of money from all the capital growth you've had. So that's why you should be doing it right now. Now, a lot of people say, well, yeah, Simon, but you know, if I buy something now and in 6 or 12 months later, it's worth less money, I've lost money. Well, no, you haven't lost any money unless you're planning to sell that property. Remember, property investing should be seen as a long-term game. And actually, if you remember the golden rules in Property Magic, rule number 4 is we're buying for the long term. Yes, we can buy things, do them up, sell them on in the right market conditions. But the market conditions right now, you need to be buying something with the intention of holding it and renting it out long term. Therefore, short-term price fluctuations really don't matter. In fact, I'd like to remind you about the golden rules in Property Magic, because if you follow the golden rules, you're going to minimize your risk of making expensive mistakes. So rule number one, we always want to work with motivated sellers, people who want to sell their property quickly. And because of that, they're motivated to either have flexibility on the price and or the terms of the sale. And they're going to be more and more motivated sellers than we've had for a very long time in 2020. That's why it's a great time to make money in 2023, if you know what you're doing. Rule number two, and this is very important, we need to buy in an area with strong rental demand. Now, rental demand is massive at the moment. As long as it's a good property in a good area, there are lots of people queuing up to rent those properties, particularly people who maybe are thinking about buying the first home. They were going to buy, but actually because of the market, they're now going to wait and see what happens. They need to rent somewhere. And also in times of difficulty, when people are living on their own in apartments, that's very expensive. They might want to move into shared accommodation. Things like HMOs, there's really good, strong demand for that. So you've got to make sure there's really good, strong demand. That's rule number two. Rule number three, and this is really important, only ever buy a property that gives you positive cash flow. So at the end of each month, after you take off the mortgage, the insurance, the maintenance, the management, there must be profit left over. Now, with high interest rates at the moment, many single-let properties don't really work. They don't really give you positive cash flow. So the two best strategies I believe you should be doing in 2023 to give you really good cash flow are high-end HMOs, co-living type HMOs. So we're not talking about the average HMO, which are not very good, and there's lots of them, they compete with each other. Very high-end, high-spec HMOs that attract much better type of tenant because they're paying more money and you have less void periods because they want to stay in those great properties as well. So high-end HMOs and also short-term rentals or serviced accommodation in the right areas. Not as many people are going on holiday. It's very expensive to travel overseas. People are still doing that, but less than they would normally. So more people are holidaying in the UK instead, having short breaks, and the contractor market's very good as well. So service accommodation done correctly. And again, unfortunately, most people don't know how to do these things properly. You must educate yourself. These two strategies give very high cash flow. They're really good for the current market in 2023. The fourth rule, I mentioned it, is got to hold for the long term. And rule number five, you want to have a cash buffer, some money put aside. It could be in a bank account, it could be on a credit card, just to make sure if something goes wrong, you can get it fixed and get the property rented out as quickly as possible to bring income into you. These are the important things you need to do if you want to make money in 2023. Follow the golden rules, minimize the risks. And I sat down and wrote these rules at the end of 2007, just as we were going into the last property market crash. Because I'd been investing at that point myself for about 12 years. And I've been teaching other people at that point for about 4 years how to be successful investors. And I had made lots of mistakes. I noticed other people making similar mistakes. So I thought I wanted to come up with some guidelines that people could follow to minimize the expensive mistakes people are making. That's where the 5 golden rules came about. They're still very valid today, and particularly going into this declining market, make sure you understand them. I've got some videos about it on this YouTube channel, or you could go and listen to the Property Magic podcast, or even go and get a copy of Property Magic from Amazon, or the Audible copy. You can listen to that. So it's going to be a great opportunity in 2023. Get educated, get out there, make sure you know what makes a good deal for you. Speak to lots of sellers, work with motivated sellers. Remember, people become more motivated as time goes on. So you might speak to someone now and they're not that interested. Keep in touch with them. If they don't sell that property, they're going to become more and more motivated with time. So make sure you follow up. It's a key critical success. And I would recommend, if you want to make money in 2023, whenever you look at a property, put an offer in on every single property you look at. Now, you're going to adjust the offer depending on how much you want to buy the property. There'll be some properties you really don't want to buy, but therefore you make a very low offer, a price at which they accepted you would be happy to buy because it's such a great deal. So that's what you need to do. Be very careful to make sure you put an offer on everything and then follow up with all of the people you're making these offers with. And if you do that and take enough action, you will get some very good deals. You'll lock in some good capital, some equity in the properties you're buying by buying below market value. This is a great time. And fortunes are made in times of recession. They're also lost by majority of people, but if you know what you're doing, taking action, this could be one of the best opportunities for you to invest in property. I do hope you found this useful and inspiring. I have lots of other free videos for you to check out. If you like the video, click the like button. Make sure you hit the bell icon as well to get notified when new videos come out, because particularly this year, a lot of my videos are going to be very time sensitive, talking about opportunities, things you can do. You're going to want to listen to those as soon as they come out. And make sure you subscribe to the channel. There's a huge amount of free content for you here as well. So as ever, I'd like to encourage you to invest with knowledge, invest with skill. Recognize this is a great time to be investing in property, but make sure you follow the 5 golden rules from Property Magic if you want to make money and if you want to get rich from the 2023 recession. Speak to you in the next video. I do hope you got massive value from watching this YouTube video. I'd encourage you to click on the link below to come and do the online training with me. And I've got another video lined up for you, which I think is also going to be really useful that you should watch once you've registered for the online training with me. So invest with knowledge, invest with skill. I'll see you very soon.